As I've told you guys, I suffer with OCD. I suffered with it very severely last year and the year before, just a while ago, but it was very severe. And out of all the kind of anxiety, mental illness related things I've suffered with, OCD has the most misconceptions. I think a lot of people, anybody that suffers with OCD will be able to tell you that people just don't understand it, which is fair enough. I feel like OCD is something that people don't come across as much as they do anxiety and depression and stuff. I just feel like people view OCD as something very different than anxiety, when actually OCD is an anxiety disorder. It's part of the anxiety group. But I don't know, I feel like I faced quite a lot of misconceptions when it comes to OCD, and because I recently filmed my anxiety misconceptions video, I thought I would film an OCD misconceptions video. Really just because I feel like it makes other people feel less alone when they can hear somebody else talking about OCD, because it's something that's very, OCD is very isolating. Basically, to me, what OCD is when your brain and your body has too much anxiety and too much stress, your body creates a coping mechanism, and that's OCD. That's what I feel like OCD is, because I felt like my OCD came very fast and suddenly from when I was at my peak of panic attacks and panic disorder and anxiety. That's when my brain was like, okay, we need something that helps us, and it created OCD to try and like make me feel like I had something, like a coping mechanism. I don't know. I thought I'd share my misconceptions with you guys and see if any of you face these misconceptions as well. Of course, the most common misconception is that OCD is you not liking clutter or untidy things. Although some people do experience OCD and they have kind of an obsession with cleanliness, and a lot of people experience OCD with contamination and that kind of thing. It's not everybody, and I think that's definitely a massive misconception. There's so many different types of OCD, and people get like unusual like sexual thoughts, unusual religious thoughts. It's basically a bully inside your head, and it's really not anything to do with being tidy. I think I can definitely say that. Like, I've not experienced having to be tidy in any sort of way, and most people that I've met that have OCD, or any of you guys, most of you say that you're very untidy people, in fact, and that you just have OCD on top of that. It's nothing to do with cleanliness and being tidy and neat. Absolutely nothing. I know most people know that by now, but a lot of people still have this weird misconception about OCD and cleanliness and tidiness, and it's just all a load of rubbish, to be honest. My second misconception is people often feel like you can have a bit of an OCD personality, which is not true. I think this is the one that angers me the most, is when people... I'm very sensitive about my anxiety and OCD. I think not just for myself, but for everybody that's like watching this video, and for everybody that has experienced a mental health illness. It's not something to joke about, and it's not something to like speak lightly of. It really like affects people's lives, and it's not funny to joke around with. And so when people say they're a bit OCD, I just get quite frustrated with that, because I'm like, actually, OCD is such a difficult thing to deal with. You can't just be a bit OCD. You know, it like either takes over your life, or it like affects your life in some way, or it doesn't. You can't be a bit OCD, just like you can't have a bit of depression. You can't have a bit of depression. You either have depression or you don't. It's not like a cute thing to describe yourself as, a bit OCD. It's actually like a really crippling illness. My third misconception is that I think a lot of people think that OCD is something that's not that life-changing, and like you can still get on with your daily life. Actually, it's not. A lot of people with OCD, especially people with severe OCD, they can't actually perform normal tasks. You have your brain, and I feel like when you have OCD, your OCD takes up this amount of your brain. It takes up the vast majority of your brain, and if there's this bully inside your head that's taking up the vast majority of it, it really does completely affect every single thing you do in your life. For a long time, like I said in my OCD video, I'll link that down below if you've not seen it, I couldn't really walk. Like if I walked in a certain way, I would have to walk a different way, and like I couldn't really say words that I wanted to say. There's so many different parts of OCD that wouldn't let me do or say what I wanted to do. It completely disrupts your life. It disrupts your relationships very badly. A lot of my relationships and friendships and stuff, and like family members' relationships, I think were under pressure and strained quite a bit. Work life, you can't... If you have severe OCD, often it's hard to have a normal work life generally just hard to live daily life. It's not something that's like you have a bit of OCD, like it's fine. It's actually can be really, really severe for a lot of people, and it can be really, really debilitating. Another misconception I think is that people think that if you have OCD, you just have OCD for life. That's not the case at all. Although some people might never fully overcome OCD and might not fully ever get completely better, you definitely can, and you definitely can get a lot better. I know what it's like to be in that very dark place and think you're the exception to the rule, and think like, okay, maybe some people can get better from OCD or anxiety, but not me, because I generally just can't cope. I can't cope at all. But you can. I've honestly come so far with my OCD, and I don't feel like it affects my life. It doesn't like disrupt my life as much as it does. I've still got compulsions, and my compulsions get worse when I'm doing something anxious, and I sometimes have to do things that I don't want to do, but my OCD tells me to do. But I can definitely live a normal daily life to a certain extent now. Something I never thought I'd be able to do. So make sure you remember that you can overcome OCD and you can get better from it. It's not something you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life. There's so many different ways to overcome OCD. You can medication, therapy, working really hard by yourself, you know what I mean? There's so many different ways that you can overcome OCD, but it's definitely not with you for the rest of your life. OCD isn't always visible. My OCD, when I had it really bad, was very, very visible. I'd have to switch light switches on and off. I'd have to walk certain ways. I'd have to move certain things certain ways. I'd have to scribble things out in a certain way. Like everything was very much visible, and if you analysed my behaviour, you were able to see that I had OCD. But a lot of people that have OCD, it's a lot to do with obsessions in their head rather than their compulsions. Some people don't actually have to do that many compulsions at all. It's just their thoughts, their intrusive thoughts that are very, very difficult. So just because somebody doesn't seem like they have OCD, doesn't look visibly like they have to do compulsions, it doesn't mean that they're not really, really struggling inside in their head. It doesn't mean that their obsessive thoughts aren't really just like really crippling them. It doesn't always have to be visible. And my last misconception is that some people feel like you can control your OCD. Because it's in your head, you can just stop doing those actions. This is quite offensive as well to say to somebody with OCD. I think I'd never say that to somebody with OCD, no matter what your opinion on OCD is, never say that, because it's very offensive. If you have OCD, you cannot control the thoughts that are in your head, and although you may be able to physically control the actions that you do, you really don't have a choice in a lot of ways. Okay, speaking to somebody that doesn't have OCD, if you don't have OCD, trying to explain it is like your worst fear in the whole wide world. The thing that you just would just be so you can't deal with, that fear of losing somebody or whatever your fear is, times that by 10. And if somebody said to you, unless you touch that lamp 5 times, that your worst fear is going to happen, I think anybody would do it. If you thought that somebody you loved would die, unless you touched that plant or whatever, you would do it. And that's just what OCD is. It's just this bully in your head saying you have to do this or something bad will happen. You can't just turn it on and off whenever you feel like it. I think most people with OCD, if they could just turn it off, they would. They 100% would, because it's horrible to live with. So those are my 6 misconceptions of OCD. If you've got any more, please leave them in the comments, or if you've experienced any of these misconceptions, and let me know. Thanks very much for watching this video, and I'll see you soon. Bye!